Hey, what's up, everybody? It's HBCU Game Day. I'm Tolly in Atlanta, joined now from let's check the GPS. He is in Jackson, all right, Jackson, Mississippi. He is a traveling man, Mr. Neely, my brother, Uncle Neely. What's going on, man?
Hey man, pleasure to be with you again. Kind of like, hey, you old enough to remember Fraggle Rock? You remember Uncle Traveling Matt sending those letters back? That's
Down
what
the
I'm gonna do to
Fraggle Rock, down the Fraggle Rock, boom, boom. Hey, let's do something special here, man. I know you got all the money. Do you have hard money on you? Do you have a quarter, a nickel, a dime? What you got? What you working with? We're gonna do
let's
something
see.
right
Yeah,
off the
yeah,
top.
yeah, yeah.
All right, heads or tails?
Got a quarter.
Heads or tails? I'm gonna let you call it.
Heads.
Heads. All right, flip it. Let's see what we get here. Good catch.
Got tails.
You got tails. All right, so it is the Tolly and Neely show. If you would have got heads, it would have been the Neely and Tolly show. So from here on ever, that's why I get top billing on the Tolly and Neely show, because you lost the flip. Listen.
But you also had the wisdom to not tell me what we were flipping for, so I couldn't lie. You say which way it landed.
I keep it real with you, homie. I keep it real. Listen, man, you and I have these great conversations. And over the years, it's just been, exclusively kind of Jackson State. I think we need to open it up, man, to everything that two, 50-ish-year-old guys talk about. And a lot of that is HBCU. So let's start, man. The big topic the last, 2-3 weeks has been Bethune-Cookman University. And I want to talk about it from a larger scale. We've all seen the receipts. Everybody has said their piece about what happened and what didn't happen. I don't want to split hairs and argue about those things. But from a larger scale, you have been following Deion Sanders at Jackson State. You now keep up with him and our other HBCU brethren who transitioned over to Colorado. So you understand, Neely, what it's like to be in the space and a big light comes in. And Ed Reed, it might have been for a short time, but it was a big light on Bethune-Cookman, and they were getting mentions and talked about in places that they probably had not been talked about in a while. This may be a strategy that other HBCUs continue to follow with big name, former NFL players or coaches coming into their organizations and aligning them with their brands. What do you think is the most important thing for a school, a university, that might choose to go down that path?
Well, I think that you have to appreciate when you hire a Deion Sanders, or hire Eddie George, a Hugh Jackson from the coaching side of it, as in not being a legendary player himself, but legendary NFL, or hire Ed Reed as a legendary player. You have to understand you're not just hiring a coach, that you're hiring that person and all that they bring to the table. And I think in that HBCU space, you have to get out of your own way and let that person be who they are. Most of us go our entire lives and never meet somebody who's the absolute best at whatever it is they do. You don't meet an Oprah or a Jeff Bezos, or you don't meet a Michael Jordan. But one thing about those people, they have a drive and determination and a vision, clairvoyancy, if you will. There's a big word for you, Tolly, that most of us don't have. So when you bring in, a thoroughbred horse, you cannot manage him like you manage the mules, because they're not in tune with that way of doing things. You have to get out of the way and allow them to be great. And as you said, there may be a lot of HBCUs who are looking to go in that space, because it has worked well at Jackson State and worked well at Tennessee State. I also think because of what happened at Bethune-Cookman, we shouldn't abandon that way of thinking, because there's an example where the two brands did not merge in a clear and concise way. Bringing in greatness from the outside can help you. This is one of those kind of family conversations, Tolly, where in your own household or in the HBCU family, if we were capable of fixing some of our problems, we would have been done fixed them. That's that West Jackson coming out there, been done. We'd have been done fixed.
You went from clairvoyant to been done. I like that.
Oh, man, you got to run the whole gamut. And so if you're not capable of doing it internally, bringing in some external resources and thought processes might be the key. I hope we don't abandon the resources that we have available to us on the outside just because some didn't work in Daytona, Florida.
I just thought that whole thing was so unfortunate. with Bethune-Cookman and Ed Reed. And when it was all said and done, I felt like everybody lost. There's always something positive that you can try to, extrapolate and move forward. I'm not a doom and gloom guy, but I was just so excited about the possibilities, man, and I was just so upset that it just took a left turn for whatever reason.
Yeah, and the reasons I'm sure will be told as time goes on, told from the perspective of both sides, from the Bethune-Cookman administration as well as Ed Reed's. I happen to know of the Ed Reed side of it. I haven't talked to Ed directly, but of course I'm in constant contact with Deion Sanders, who's in constant contact with Ed Reed. I'm in constant contact with Roe Parrish, who's in constant contact with Ed Reed. And so some of the things that people saw happen in late January were starting to happen in early January. And I think that we have to look at the chronological unraveling of what took place. Everybody wants to start the clock at Ed Reed's so-called rant and don't want to peel back the layers in time and say, what caused him to go on that rant? It's not like he just woke up one day and went smack off on Instagram Live. Something was in the air that made that happen. Of course, later on, he apologized for it, acknowledged it wasn't the right way to do it, but we're failing to go backwards and say what led to that. Because the day he had the rant, he didn't have a contract in place. The week before the rant, he didn't have a contract in place. The week before that, he didn't have a contract in place, but he was promised some things that, hey, come on and get started and we'll work all that out. None of that gets worked out amongst some other severe issues that he was confronted with that was not going to be there in the early days. He snaps and goes off, and now everybody wants to say, well, he didn't get the contract because he went off. Well, the contract wasn't in place before that.
That was one question that I kind of had just kind of watching it. And I wasn't watching it closely because I just kept thinking, all right, we're going to have a press conference. Once we get to the press conference, then everybody will have their questions and we'll kind of figure out what the vision is and what's going on and, what took so long. So I was kind of patiently waiting for that moment. But as the days kept going along, I was like, this is weird. Like, you usually don't have somebody there kind of in a working capacity and no deal and the press conference being, stretched out that far. But the one thing I did keep asking myself, I was like, something had to set him off. And it just seemed odd from what you were seeing him doing on campus and, the things that seemed to be transpiring. And then that moment, I was like, I don't know what it was, but it was a pretty big trigger or a culmination of things. From my vantage point, not knowing what happened.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Something was there. We live in this world where we feel like we know celebrities because of TMZ and cameras and NFL Network and microphones everywhere. And for the folks that know Miami from Ed Reed from his University of Miami playing days or being a Louisiana boy or his days in the NFL, you don't have an example of Ed Reed ever doing this before. So my instant reaction was, what caused it? Not so much why is he doing it. Here's a person who's done something that he's never done before. And so I was looking for the triggers that pushed him to that. And so a lot of folks are saying, oh, man, he's crazy for working out a contract. Well, maybe they're crazy for making him think they were going to give him a contract and him believing it. It's which side is this coin are you going to look at it from? And I think there is some due diligence that needs to take place on both sides of it. I think there's some lessons learned on both sides of it. I think that Ed Reed, he would tell you, I would do something differently, hindsight being 2020. But I've yet to hear Bethune-Cookman administration say they would do something differently. They're just hell bent on, it's over, he ain't coming back, and we didn't offer him the contract, not discussing what led up to the not offering the contract. And I would submit to you, Tolly, it wasn't because he went off on social media as to why the contract was not in place. The contract was not in place well before that took place.
Yep, there are still some questions there. There's a video where we had a sit down with Reggie Theus, the Bethune-Cookman University athletic director. He spoke with Arvon Wilson, and he offered the thoughts from Bethune-Cookman. That video has had a lot of traction, and Reggie hasn't spoken to a lot of people. I think the only interview he gave was to us. I want to thank you, Neely. You did, on your behalf, reach out to the Ed Reed camp and try to get us an interview with Ed Reed. The camp told you, and when you in turn told us, that they weren't doing interviews at that time, so we weren't able to speak to him directly. But just for people following at home, because there was some maybe a little bit of confusion in the comments of our efforts there. Neely was working hard and keeping me up to date, but at that moment, they chose not to.
Yeah, and one thing to that regard, Tolly, like even sitting here now with you, there are some things I know, but in deference to Ed Reed and his camp, it should be them to announce them. I remember this day vividly. I was in Boulder. It's Friday the 13th, and I have a 45-minute conversation with Roe Parrish about how the pregame show and how media outlets worked with Coach Prime at Jackson State and navigating that space and giving space, but all while telling stories. And even then, we weren't able to move forward in things because Bethune-Cookman was blocking some things and not giving Ed the support that he had been promised in, say, December. So that thread in the sweater was unraveling way before this rant. And I would submit to you, and things will come out in the future from Ed and his team. There were some things that happened that triggered that rant that Reggie Theus, as athletic director, has not shared with the world. Everyone is talking about the rant and after that, but not talking about what led up to the rant.
Well, I will say this, and this is just me talking and me offering my opinion. Obviously, I'm a big fan of all HBCUs. I remain a big fan of Ed Reed, enjoyed him as a player. And from what I saw, and we've seen some interactions from some of the parents and players who were being recruited, it definitely seemed like his heart was in the right place. And he was exhibiting a lot of passion towards the university and towards that opportunity. But as Neely has said, unbeknownst to the rest of the world, there were some things that did not go as planned. And I just hope everyone can move forward, man. And I wish the best for all parties. And that's my Switzerland response there.
Yeah, I trust that as well. The God ain't done with Ed Reed and Bethune-Cookman. God ain't done with Bethune-Cookman either. Everybody's going to be bigger and better from this. We just got to, get past it and heal and move forward. But one thing to underscore what you said that I don't think has ever been questioned or can be questioned is Ed Reed's sincerity. When you look at an Eddie George at Tennessee State, a Hugh Jackson at Grambling, a Deion Sanders when he was at Jackson State, or a Ed Reed at Bethune-Cookman, you're talking about guys who have other things they could be doing with their time. And they weren't there just for them. Of course, they weren't there to hurt themselves either. They were there for those kids. And everything that you heard Ed Reed say, you later on heard student athletes and parents echo. So people want to trigger in on the cursing or the yelling, but no one has said Ed Reed was lying, and no one has said he's not sincere in his care about these kids. So I look for Ed Reed to contribute somewhere in the future, and I think he's going to leave his mark on coaching, and perhaps it'll be in the HBCU space. But even if it's not, it's certainly going to be beneficial to young African American athletes who are trying to navigate becoming professionals on and off the field.
Well, we'd love to have him on air here at HBCU Game Day one day. Maybe that'll happen, and I'd love to hear his side of the story for sure. Neely, one thing that, man, I'll be honest, man, it just kind of, it's a blessing and a curse. I'll start this way, and you and I have had this conversation before. You are watching the Tolly and Neely show because I won the coin flip, and it's going to be that way for the next 30 years. I think we got another 30 years left in us, Neely. It is really popular, man, in mainstream media right now, especially Black-owned media and Black-focused media, Black-catered media. Those are two separate things. Don't get it twisted. To talk about HBCUs. It is a hot-button topic. And this week here in Atlanta, where I live, I don't care, white station, sports talk, Black urban, it's been talk about Bethune-Cookman. There was talk about Albany State. We'll get into that in just a bit. There are no shortage of people, Neely, who are willing to call your local radio station and run down the HBCU of the moment, who's ever in the spotlight or crosshairs. So, Neely, it's one thing that it is still a popular space. It is still a trending topic, things that the media likes to discuss. But, man, when it goes downhill, Neely, it can turn into an avalanche. What do you think is the best way, man, to leverage the opportunity of still being a hot topic item, but also making sure, man, that it doesn't take a left turn like it does sometimes?
Well, it's going to make a left turn. And it's going to make a left turn because, as Deion Sanders said the day he was announced as Jackson State's head coach, I'm bringing a spotlight with me, but that spotlight is going to show the greatness and also show our warts. And there's no way around it. You can't have the yin without the yang. If you're going to put yourself in a space where, hey, everybody look at me, you can't then turn and say, but don't look at that. Just look at this part. It's not a cafeteria plan where you get to pick the mac and cheese or the string beans. No, you're going to get these yams. You're going to get this pork. You're going to get everything down the line on that plate that comes with it. And so you have to understand that when you get into this social media space that HBCUs are now in, this talk of the town space that HBCUs are now in, that light shines on both things. And we historically, whether it is a people or our organizations, we like to keep our problems in-house and not speak of them. But as I said earlier, there are certain caliber of folks out there, that's not how they solve problems. They solve problems by putting it on Front Street. They bring solvency to it, which means putting the no to it, letting people know it's taking place. Something that Coach Prime was trying to do at Jackson State before he moved on was fix the refund check problem, the delay in the refund check. You talk to HBC students around the nation and they all experience this. Now, we can go into the why they experience it, but we also know they don't experience it at PWIs. Refund checks is a college thing, but why is it only in one market space? Instead of getting them in registration and shortly thereafter, you get them in November. Well, you can't tell an Ed Reed or Deion Sanders or Eddie George that's just the way it is. It's always been that way. Be quiet. That's not how they operate. So they're going to bring you the attention and get you on College Game Day and get you on Sports Illustrated and Jimmy Kimmel Tonight Show and that kind of thing. But you're also going to see some things that you wanted to sweep under the rug. It goes part and parcel with it, Tolly. I don't think you can separate the potential left turn and the exposure of what you should be fixing in showing everything that's great as well.
You and I talk about this, man. For the majority of these coaches, they don't have that strong right turn where they're just household names and they can throw out, things that they've done and just people across the country like, yeah, I know that guy. I grew up watching that guy, or, they have that brand recognition. But that left turn can go big left for anybody, whether you're popular or not. So I feel frustrated sometimes because our schools, I don't think, embrace the moment to take that light, but also take the risk of, hey, we can get our name out there a lot more now. We can be more active on social media. We can push our brand hard. But I feel like for some, not all, there's that thought that, but yeah, man, they might find out about, the mildew, the mold, the mice, whatever. That was the big thing in the news this week. So let's not do anything. Let's just turn the light off. So we won't capitalize on the good, but we won't risk you seeing the bad either. And I'm just kind of frustrated because in 2023, I just don't think that's a winning strategy. I think you got to take the risk.
I totally agree. You kicked off this portion of the conversation with talking about what you're hearing on sports radio and seeing on other podcasts and YouTube channels and how everything is HBCU now. This ain't the time to cut the lights off and say, no, don't look at me. This is the time to say, hey, look at me, look at this greatness. Aha, but look at where I could use you and I need your help. You could help me fix this mold. You could help me fix this rat infestation. You could help me fix this solvency as it relates to delayed refund checks. Instead of turning the light off, it's time to turn the light up and capitalize on earned media. Earned meaning you didn't pay anything for it. These people are talking about you and covering you anyway. So when you set up your Google alerts and your HBCU PR and you get a notification that this article came out, that's the time to ride that article and say, hey, great article, and could you run this next time? Here's a press release. Talk about this. We need donations because the day of giving is going up. To turn the lights off after these folks, Deion Sanders, Eddie George, Ed Reed, Hugh Jackson, brought so much attention to the HBCU space, you're really cutting your nose off to spite your face. This is the time to turn the wattage up, man, and show more, because not only are we great and have greatness, we have some things that people from the outside can help us fix.
It's interesting this week. Shannon Sharp, Savannah State alum. We all know what he did in the NFL. He was talking about the Ed Reed situation. He came. People want to say like he brought the smoke to Ed Reed. I didn't feel it was that strong. He kind of offered his opinion. It wasn't completely, just supporting, Ed Reed's actions. But he mentioned, he was like, hey, you never know. Some other schools might be even worse. And I think he was just saying it as an example. And then he had to say somebody's name. And, He said Prairie View and somebody else. I thought it was interesting. There was 2 different reactions. There were some people who were just like, all right, time to cancel Shannon because he came at Prairie View. And then there were other people who were like, actually, our facilities are really great. They started posting pictures of their facilities. And I'm like, man, you were trending. Like, he put you out there in the trending space. Take advantage of it. So I sided with the people who took that route.
And that's what I mean. Perfect real world example to what I just said. Here's an opportunity where Prairie View folks could have got mad and said, how dare you use us as an example to turn the light off, or take this opportunity of now your name being a hashtag, or you could make it a hashtag, hint, hint, and show your facilities and increase recruitment. Because let's also keep in mind, Tolly, those pictures that they're posting to prove Shannon wrong, those pictures ain't 30 years old. It ain't been that way. It got that way with help and attention to need and someone organizing and let's make this happen and get these facilities up to par. But the bigger point to me that's getting missed in this wasn't that Shannon was so much picking on Prairie View. He was just pulling 2 names out there as for example. And the truth is, if you look at what's going on at HBCU from the reports from the parents, from the reports from the student athletes, or Ed Reed, we all know in this space, it ain't uncommon. There are places that got it rougher than Daytona has. There are places who had it rough and just got better. And you have to call attention to these things so they can get better. You can't bury your head in the sand and try to ignore it because that doesn't solve the problem. I think Shannon was just pulling 2 examples out, naming the first 2 HBCUs that came to mind. I don't think he was actually shooting the shot, at Prairie View. But shout out to those folks at Prairie View who were able to use that moment and say, oh, no, we hear you, Shannon. Bad example of us because look at our stuff. And you got to show your stuff to people who had never seen it before.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, Shannon, let me catch you straight, man, so I can shine a little bit. You put my name out there. It's and Prairie View's got it going on, man. Alabama State, like we have some facility, like it ain't all bad. Now we got some bad out there, but there's some places they'll put other non-HBCU schools to shame. Don't get that twisted.
No, not at all. And let them talk about how it got from bad to good and from good to great. They didn't wake up yesterday with those facilities. They had to put a plan in place with some leadership and some fundraising and some professionalism and get that ball rolling and get it happen. Like that success story can be replicated if you don't run from telling the story. You have to tell the truth. You can't lie to your doctor. You can't lie to your lawyer. You can't lie to your accountant. They can't get you out of trouble if they don't know the truth. Talk to them, tell them what's going on, and say, oh, no, my leg done hurt. I don't know what you're talking about. And then 2 months later, your big mama got to get a foot amputated. When all you had to do was say something.
You can't lie to your wife either, Neely. She knows.
Hey, man, that's all you.
She knows, man. Your nose does that little twinkle. Your body language shifts. She knows, man. You can't lie.
So I'll tell our age again. Started off with Fraggle Rock, so her nose moves like Bewitched.
Tickle. For sure. Hey, man, talk about going from good to better and growing. The pregame show is growing. You know how excited and happy I am for you, man. So as more and more people are watching your content, I know you're always putting the student athletes, whether you're telling stories at Jackson State or you follow the kids who moved on to Colorado, you never really put yourself out there in Front Street. So let's get to know Neely a little better. Neely, you and I are about, you're a little bit older than me. So have you already crossed over 50? Have you passed 50? All right.
Oh, yeah. I'm 51, be 52 in June.
Oh, okay. Does it feel different? I'm almost there. Do you wake up and you feel like, oh, wow, this is different? Or is it just another day?
No, it's just another day, but you'll find you don't make a move without making a sound. So right now you're used to life where you stand up, you just stand up. Once you cross over, it's like, or you sit down, like you're gonna make a noise when you move. When you cross over.
If it don't come out of your mouth, it's gonna come out of your joints. Pop, 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 pop. All right, so here's what I wanted to know, man. We're in the same wheelhouse. What was better? Music from the 70s or music from the 80s?
Woo! R&B and soul give me the 70s. Hip hop give me the 80s.
Well, okay, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. Who is the group from the 70s? Best music out of the 70s belongs to who?
Oh my God, Solly! Like you cannot narrow that down.
Come on, man.
Like,
you got a childhood favorite.
You got folks like Ohio. you got folks like Ohio players out there, but you still got like the Commodores too, man. You can't just say one person.
That's it for me. Look, the Commodores and Lionel Richie, they own that space for me, man. The very first.
You heard me mention them. Yeah.
The very first song I ever remember memorizing the words to was Once, Twice, Three Times a Lady. Like when I was like 5, like that was my song. And I mispronounced one of the words. I would sing it. I would say once, twice, 3 times a lady. I thought he was saying 3 times, not 3 times.
Tyler, let me give you something.
Yeah.
So you have a Pavlovian response. You know, Pavlov would train the dogs with the bell and he would feed them. Y'all go Google that. I don't have time to teach you right now. You have a Pavlovian response to memories that you have. Let me give you one for me. The Commodores brings me so much joy when I hear their music. The Commodores with the smell of pine sol makes me run, because that's when I know we're going to have to clean up the whole damn house on a Saturday morning. If you woke up to the sound of the Commodores and they're hitting pine sol in there, we was finna be working all day cleaning the house.
Ooh, and your mama didn't say a word. She was just humming along, and you just knew to fall in line.
Commodores and pine sol is a work your ass off combination.
All right, man. Your favorite. You got to have one. Your favorite rock and roll song. I know you got one.
Rock and roll, man. Any era?
Any era.
Give me Guns N' Roses, man. Welcome to the Jungle.
Oh, I love that. And but that has a little urban connection there, because it was Lean on Me, right? That was like wasn't that like the opening song from Lean on Me?
It was. It sure was.
Yeah, he's walking down the hallway and it was going, man, it was wild. They were wilding out there. All right, I'll take the Eagles. I'm a big Eagles fan, so anything by the Eagles, I'm with.
That's classic. That's timeless.
Yeah.
That's timeless.
If Hotel California comes on, I'm gonna stop. I know about half the words. I'll mess up the other half, but I'm
too slow for me to get into rock wise. You know, I'm looking for a little more upbeat tempo. Great song though. Yeah. Great song from a great era.
Absolutely. All right, man. Let's get back to it.
I wonder what would happen if we put on Hotel California and Pine Sol, if we combine those two. Like what happened in my European brothers' household when they heard the Eagles and
they had to go clean the pool, man. It was time to clean the pool. I think that's what it was. Oh, Mom, we got to clean the pool. Come on. Oh God! Now you're giving me a bad flashback, man. Because my grandma used to. Well, never mind. It's a different day. There's a different day. That world might not be ready for that story. Let's get back to some sports here, Neely.
That's on the next episode of Tolly and Neely.
Yes, it is. It is. You're going back to Colorado soon. I know you try to take you're going like on a monthly basis, once a month, to keep up with what former Jackson State coach Deion Sanders is up to there at Colorado.
Yeah, a little more than that. It's certainly closer to twice a month. I'll be there. And also as well as for special events leading up in the days after them. So we're coming up on signing day. I'll be there then, and then end of the month as we're going to March, getting ready for true spring workouts and practices that lead to the spring game. So it's almost like working offshore. We'll be back and forth, giving you some content from there, giving you content from here, hanging out with Tolly on HBCU game day, giving all that you can handle and want. And if we fall short, just go in the comments and say you want more, and we'll give it to you.
They're gonna say something in the comments. Here's the question that I have. I know you have stories that you're gonna parse out to us throughout the year as you build up your library of content. I really want to know how Coach Dancy is doing, because Coach Dancy kept it so 100. He was like, man, I ain't never left Mississippi. He is now in Colorado. I don't think, if you had to juxtapose, that's my biggest word I can give you today, Neely. If you had to juxtapose 2 different cities in America, I think it would be pretty close to tops of any place in Mississippi and any place in Colorado being polar opposites.
Particularly Itta Bena, Mississippi, and Boulder, Colorado.
See, I didn't want to go in on Itta Bena like that. I didn't want to go all the way in.
I mean, we're talking about juxtaposition. We're not going in on anybody. So we're just saying that these 2 things in But I will tell you this to answer your question. We have been dropping segments on all of Coach Prime's staff. And when we get into February, stay tuned to the pregame show and also share content over here at HBCU Game Day. We have been doing some sit downs with Coach Dancy that we are packaging together, but also doing that as well for all the coaches who were HBCU coaches and players that are now playing and coaching in the Power Five. But you nailed it, Tolly. Hey, you can say that you broke the story here. There is a Vincent Dancy segment coming out in February.
All right, but he's doing good. He's happy. He's settled in.
Yeah, all is well, man. He's enjoying it. Coach Prime called me, I guess it was last week because I was here in Jackson, and he said, "Dog, let me tell you what I just saw." He said, it was, I guess, one of the Monday night games, or maybe the Cowboys game, the one that was played on the Monday with Tampa. He said, "Man, I'm leaving here," because he was doing the Eli and Peyton show. He said, "I'm leaving here. It's late. I walk by the office, and Dancy is in there going through the playbook and diagramming plays up on the big screen. Nobody in there but him. Everybody's gone. I'm only here because I had to do this show for Monday Night Football, but he is still in here grinding it with the biggest smile on his face and loving every minute of it." And the times I've been in Boulder, same thing, man. Positive attitude. Rest of the staff loves him, gets along with him, and he's teaching things and being taught things, and he is growing and developing. And, the Vincent Dancy story is not going to start and end with Valley, Colorado. I'm looking forward to see where these guys go in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. This Coach Prime coaching tree, if you will, when it starts to branch out. Because you've had an Andre Hart, who has been coaching with Coach Prime since Little Leagues in Dallas and came to Jackson State with him and is now voted with him. Coach Hart will tell you, I'm going to be a head coach one day because of that man, and that man being Deion Sanders.
I'm so happy for Coach Dancy, man. I'm happy when people finally break out of whatever box they were in. Like, you got to get out of Mississippi at some point. Not to say it can't be home and you can't come back, but you got to see the world, the country, at least a little bit. So, and he was just always one of my favorites, man. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Coach Dancy, man. He gave it all that he had at Mississippi.
It helps you appreciate the view from Mississippi when you see other places. Because, again, using your big word today, you get that juxtaposition. You will understand that when you go to other places, some of the things here that are great are not normal, and some of the things here that are bad are not normal. They're normal to you because this is just from your spectrum, your lens. When you go to other places, you get a better appreciation for what you have or what you have not. And so you're spot on with that, Tyler. Like, it's going to be exciting to see what he does and how his fingerprints are all over, that defense there, because he's on the defensive analyst side. He and Dennis Thurman work together on a constant basis. So you're looking at Dennis Thurman and all he's done in the NFL with crafting defenses, played with the Cowboys, coached the Jets and the Bills and so forth, coached at the Ravens. And now he and Dancy are side by side, helping Coach Charles Kelly from University of Alabama under Nick Saban build this Colorado defense. And we're going to tell that story. Whether you're in the comments loving it or hating it, we're going to tell that story because this ain't happening again before.
No, it is historical for sure. There's no denying that. Neely, this week there was some news out of Albany State. Quinn Gray had his opening press conference. That was at the beginning of the week, where he was named the new coach. Former FAMU Rattler, had a little time there in the NFL. But before the week was over, he made an offer to a former quarterback from the University of Florida who got booted from the team because he was rapping a song on social media and it had the N-word in it, and he made a very unwise choice of saying the word in his video or what. I never even saw it, but that was the story. And then the university kind of came back and said, no, actually, we're not going to offer him that scholarship. So he had to backpedal on that. HBCUs have historically been places, second chance opportunities for a lot of kids who have gone astray for whatever reason. When you saw that, what if you did see it, Neely? I don't even know if you saw it, but your kind of reaction, what did you think about that?
So I saw the aftermath, but I never saw the video of him using, the word. So I have to see that, understand the context, and hear the tone. Because believe me, he ain't the only white kid out there in a car rapping along to rap songs with a word that we use in rap songs. Now, whether he posted it, he got caught doing it, that's one thing. But the context singing along to something and the context of pointing at somebody and calling them that are two different things. But the bigger thing for me is what you touched on, is that HBCUs, before they were historic, when they were black colleges, before they became universities, one of the things that they were there for was opportunity. And a lot of times that opportunity is for people who can't get a chance anywhere else, or just a chance period is not available to them, whether that be a first or second chance. And so when I first heard that he was offered, I was like, oh man, good for them. I am not surprised, that they got some blowback from fans and alums around the world, because we do live in a cancel culture. And no matter which side you're on, whether you're for canceling somebody or not for canceling somebody, you have to acknowledge we live in a cancel culture world. And we do take certain positions, there's going to be pushback for it. I was surprised to see whether it was the athletic director, president, or the coach himself, backtrack from it so swiftly from the pushback. But that young man, if I think he's made a statement where he was remorseful for it. He'll land on his feet somewhere. But HBCUs, man, are about, as you said, Tolly, opportunity. We are the kings of second chances, and I don't think, whether that situation works out or not, I don't think we should abandon that from our mission, because that mission is what made us great for the past 120 plus years.
All right, when it comes to modern music today, can you do with or without the N-word being in lyrics for the whole world to consume and listen to?
It's both. If it takes the word to make the song, then you are not a good artist. If it takes the word to make a point, then I understand. We're storytellers. And sometimes you have to communicate in a language that is real and abrasive, because the song is real and abrasive. But it should not take profanity. It should not take the N-word. It should not take degrading women for a song to be a good song. If you got to do those things to make your song a hit, you ain't talented.
When I listen, man, when I go back and listen to Public Enemy, man, the strength of their lyrics and what they, it's amazing, because if you're old enough, you've gone through as hip hop turns 50 this year. It started out where the message was, don't do drugs. And then a lot of the messaging was, well, I sell drugs. And now the messaging is, I use the drugs. So we've seen this whole complete cycle.
And all three of those messages that are vastly different influence the culture in a generation of their time. It just is what it is. And so you have to be careful, not only about what you put out there, you have to be careful about what you consume. And even the use of that word, there are several Public Enemy songs where they use that N-word, but the context in which they use it is not a negative context. And that's what I mean. It's kind of, okay, you have to put things in the context that they're in and see what the usage was. So whether it's that white kid rapping in his car or it being in a song, it's all about the construct of the narrative, not just the overall banning or lack of use of the word, because it's a word and it has a meaning, and sometimes that meaning is useful.
Yeah, I know you can't see my face right now, Neely. You can only hear me, but man, there's sometimes you're in public and maybe a car goes by and they're blasting the music, and you might be in mixed company, and the N-word gets dropped a couple of times over the speakers, and you just kind of have that face like, hey, I don't know. He was playing.
Anything that makes you cringe, stop doing it. That's a pro tip.
Yes.
Just adopt that in your personal life out there. If you do something, hear something, say something, eat something, and it makes you cringe, don't do it no more. It's called your conscience.
Yeah, that's kind of like my meal from last Sunday that I made for my family. I will not do that again. Oh God, it was so bad, man. It was so bad. I immediately started washing the dish. I had to clean the crime scene. The ham was as dry as it possibly could be. I'm usually good at collard greens. They were terrible.
You should be Thanksgiving, man.
The black eyed pea. I mean, I had this like flashback. We're gonna have like a ham, collard greens, black eyed pea, and it was just god awful. I'm thinking I should stick to only January 1st for that meal. It was not good on January 21st.
I mean, if you can't cook it on the 21st, what makes you think it's going to be good on the 1st?
Well, how about you, man?
Like, I don't think I don't think you learned the lesson here, Tolly. The lesson was not to back it up 10 days. The lesson was don't do it no damn more. Let me tell you what my dad used to tell me. May he rest in peace. When you're in a hole, quit digging. You can't dig your way out of a hole.
Yeah,
So
just kind of
if
gets
the Black
deeper.
Eyed Peas sucked on the 21st, they're gonna suck on the first.
They were good on the
Practice
first,
on
though.
your own time.
I just had
Don't practice on major holidays.
I just had a bad day. I just had a bad day. Intentions were good.
Yeah.
Outcome not so much. Neely, you've been nursing. A significant person to you in your life has been under the weather a bit, and you've been at home as a caretaker. Have you messed up this week?
Yeah.
I know you've done something wrong. What went left for you this week?
Oh man, it's called DoorDash. So you gotta know your lane. I ain't trying to cook no Black Eyed Peas. I've just been getting up, getting stuff, handing stuff. Go get this, go do this, run that errand. Food, no. We got to the expert.
All right. I tried to put you out there, man. All right, a little bit of parenting.
No, look, I know my lane. I know my lane.
A little bit of parenting advice I need from you now. My daughter is coming up on her first school dance, where her first school dance where the boys and the girls are actually going to want to dance together. All the other dances, the girls would get out there and dance in a circle and the boys would, I don't know what they were doing. But the sixth grade is here. Interests are a little bit different. You've been here well before I have. I don't know how well that I'm taking it, Neely. Any advice on raising daughters and they get to the, boy-girl stage of things?
Be honest, be direct, be forthcoming. Tell them everything that you were without telling them it was you, because Tolly is still out there.
That's what scares me.
Yeah. So everything that you were trying at that age, Tolly is still out there. So let them know where the landmines are, how to avoid them, inform them on good decision making, and trust that they will make the good decision, but also know that the decision is ultimately theirs.
How much time do you get from beating up a little child? What do you get? If you punch a little boy in the throat, how much trouble will you get in?
Oh, that's nothing. You get that, but don't do a punch, do a chop.
Chop.
But you don't just do a chop.
Just chop a little boy. Get out of here, little boy.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
No child in danger.
No, Tolly is out there. Yeah, Tolly's out there, and Tolly's gonna try.
All right.
I know that it makes you sleep well at night. It makes you feel better, but it's the truth.
All right. Last football question here before we get out of here on a Saturday is Neely and Tolly chop it up here on the Tolly and Neely show. I watched the kids. I watched Travis Hunter post the video where he was playing basketball at Colorado, and
What an athlete!
I didn't know he had that in him. Not surprised, but I just didn't know. But I looked around Neely. There were people I was like, are they on a campus or are they like the Mall of America? Like, what is the difference in terms of just people, peers who are fans? I mean, it felt like they were on. It felt like he was on exhibit while he was out there playing, because it just seemed so different than the environment that I'm accustomed to, and I'm sure the environment he saw at Jackson State.
I think it's the same. It's just on scale. He had the same kind of gravitas and charisma. His personality is off the charts. If you think he's a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal teammate, his on the field and off the field personality, are just high marks, man. Just a solid guy, magnetic personality, somebody you want to be around. I think what has happened there in Colorado it's just simply more people. Jackson State, you're looking at about 6,000 students. Colorado, man, can have up to 30,000 students. So he's in a bigger pond, but he's still a very big fish, and there are a lot of eyes on him. And he has adjusted very well from high school to HBCU space in college, and now to the Power 5 level. And so he knows that there are eyes always on him. I think people be surprised how much of a homebody he is, a gamer. So if he's not fishing, playing basketball, or doing his video games, that is his life. But everybody has this perception of athletes, and they're always out clubbing and partying. And man, Travis is at home on a bank fishing, or sitting in his gaming chair playing games. And otherwise, he is dominating in athletics because that guy can jump out the gym and hang on the rim and get up and down the court like no other, man, just like he does on offense and defense and football. Phenomenal athlete, even better person.
Yeah, no, I've been keeping up with them. I know you have content that you put out and more that is still coming. Really will always be a fan of those guys, and when their day comes, and I'm fully confident it will, and they walk across that stage and shake hands with whoever the commissioner is, I'm going to be like everybody else. That's Jackson State, boy. That's Jackson State right there going to the league. So really excited about those guys. Looking forward to seeing what they're going to do, and looking forward to you continuing to capture their journey along the way here in college. Neely, enjoy the time, man.
I said it from day one. I said it from day one. I'll say it on the last day. Once a Tiger, always a Tiger.
For sure. Absolutely. Neely, enjoyed hanging out with you this weekend, man. Let's catch up after signing day and see if it's lock and what is it? Lock and load or lock and reload for the Tigers. Let's see what they do. And Deion Sanders has been making history. Never know what shocking things might happen coming up here next week. So we'll catch up with you again, man, see what's happening there.
Looking forward to it.
All right. He is Uncle Neely from Jackson, Mississippi with the pregame show. Make sure you check him out online. The keyword, the double E pregame show. I'm Tolly Carr from Atlanta. We'll see you guys soon.